The film starts with when Ip Man was told he has head and neck cancer. The doctor advised him chemotherapy, but Ip Man doesn't say anything. A boy, Billy, visits his Wing Chun academy, and because of the language barrier, he gets into a fight with the other students. Just as he was about to kick one student, Ip Man appears and blocks his kick. Instead of feeling angry, the boy hugs Ip Man. He then tells him that he is a student of Bruce Lee and presented Ip Man a travel ticket, a Bruce Lee Kung Fu instruction book, and an invitation to a karate match. Ip Man declines the invitation, saying he doesn't have time, and leaves the hall. Billy leaves the invitation to the students and runs away, asking them to give it to the Ip Man. His son, Ip Jin, beats his schoolmates and is expelled from the school. The principal suggests sending Jin abroad for study. Ip Man calls his friend Bob to his home and asks him to look after Ip Jin while he's in the US, but Ip Jin protests, saying he doesn't want to go abroad or even to school, he just wants to be a kung fu master like him. Ip Man slaps him, but Bob interferes and says that he is just a kid. Ip Man flies to the US. A Chinese man named Khan picked him up and brings him to the Chinese Benevolent Association, an institution that issues recommendation letters for Chinese immigrants in the US. When they reached the association office, Ip Man was welcomed by Kung Fu masters, but before he could talk, Master Wan, the chairman, asks Ip Man to reprimand Bruce Lee, his student, because he has been coaching Kung Fu to foreigners and published an English-language Kung Fu manual. He even took part in a karate competition. Master Wan is concerned that in the future, foreigners might use Kung Fu to fight the Chinese. The glass tea table was eventually broken into pieces as a result of their brief disagreement, and Ip Man leaves. He calls his home in Hong Kong. Bob replies, Ip Man asks for Ip Jin, but he doesn't want to talk to him. Master Wan wants his daughter, Yona, to be a kung fu fighter, but she wants to be a cheerleader and is annoyed when her father teaches her kung fu. The next day, Khan takes him to one of his acquaintances if he could help Ip Man with the recommendation letter, but he rudely refuses. Ip Man attends Bruce Lee's event. Bruce Lee is happy to see his teacher at his performance. Bruce Lee displays his famous kung fu moves at the event. After the event, Bruce Lee meets Ip Man in a restaurant and he offers help for Ip Jin's transfer. He then introduces Ip Man to one of his students, Hartman, who is a lawyer and works in the US Marines, and asks him to write a letter for Ip Jin. A karate team enters the restaurant and challenges Bruce Lee and his students. Bruce Lee fights them outside the restaurant. Ip Man watches them from inside. Finally, Bruce Lee defeats the karate master and he accepts Bruce Lee's supremacy. The next day, Ip Man visits the school with the letter from Hartman, where unfortunately he is told that he also needs a recommendation letter from the Chinese Benevolent Association, or if he can donate $10,000 to the school so they can ignore the paperwork. On the other hand, it turns out that Yona, Master Wan's daughter, was one of the students at the school. She is chosen as the lead of the cheerleader team. A girl named Becky is jealous and challenges the teacher's decision, but the teacher finalizes her decision by saying that Yona's performance was better. When Ip Man is leaving, he sees a bunch of students bullying a student. It was Yona and Becky and her boys gang bullying her. They beat her and Becky cuts her hair so that she cannot be a cheerleader. Yona manages to escape, but as she was about to be clamped by the fence door, Ip Man pushes Yona and clamps his hand. After that, he teaches a lesson to the bullies and they run away. Ip Man accompanies Yona home in the bus and they chat about Ip Man's problem. Yona is willing to help him regarding the letter. Becky complains to her mother and falsely accuses Yona. Her mother calls her father and asks him to deal with the problem. Becky's father is in the US Immigration Department. Upon reaching home, Yona tries to convince her father to issue a recommendation letter for Ip Man's son, but instead he slaps Yona and she cries. Ip Man tries to defend Yona, but Master Wan says that he can't understand because he doesn't live here. Ip Man tries to leave her, but Master Wan stops him and says that he shouldn't have used his daughter to get the letter and challenges Ip Man to a fight. They have a fierce fight as they are both kung fu masters. The fight is interrupted by an earthquake. Ip Man leaves, saying he only wanted to drop Yona as he was concerned about her safety and that it didn't have anything to do with the recommendation letter. We see cadets practicing karate. Hartman pulls his mahjong or wooden dummy, but Sergeant Barton ridicules him by saying that the dummy belongs to the Chinese museum and he must throw it away. Hartman refuses, on which Barton challenges Hartman to a fight with karate master Colin. If he wins, he will approve kung fu in the curriculum. Hartman lost the fight and the wooden dummy is burned. Yona gives Ip Man the recommendation letter, which he tears apart as he knows that it was fake. Yona invites Ip Man to the Chinese festival and he agrees to attend. In the Marines' headquarters, Hartman shows his commander a movie about Chinese kung fu, which he really likes and asks Barton to learn it. The commander also asks Hartman to go to the Chinese festival and do research on kung fu. Barton is not happy with this and tells Colin. Colin decides to go to the festival to prove that karate is better than kung fu. On the night of the festival, Ip Man goes to the festival and sees that Hartman is recording the event. In the association's office, Master Vaughn is arrested by Becky's father, named Walter, while he's signing some papers. The charges are helping an illegal Chinese immigrant, and he was taken into custody. At the festival, Colin challenges the Kung Fu masters. After intense fighting, he beats all the masters, and when he was about to hit a female Kung Fu master, Ip Man kicks him off. After which they fight aggressively, and finally Ip Man defeats Colin and the people cheer for him. While Yona was cheering for Ip Man's victory, Yona's uncle comes and tells her about her father's arrest, and they all rush to the immigration office. Walter puts charges of issuing fake letters for illegal Chinese immigrants on Master Vaughn. Barton visits Colin and gets angry about Colin's defeat. Master Vaughn denies all the charges, but because of Walter's personal grudge against Master Vaughn because of his daughter Becky, Walter sends people to the office of Chinese Benevolent Association to arrest all the people who are there. Billy asks Ip Man and Yona not to go to the association because of the arrest order. Yona's uncle calls the association to inform the masters to leave the office. This is when Barton arrives at the association and beats everyone and asks them the whereabouts of Master Vaughn. To save themselves from the brutal beating, the people tell him that Master Vaughn is at the immigration office. He then goes to the immigration office and asks Walter to give him the custody of Master Vaughn so that he could take him to the Marines' headquarters, which Walter agrees. Ip Man arrives at the association and sees the chaos that Barton has created, but he couldn't find Barton. At the Marines' headquarters, Barton wakes up his cadets so that they can witness his fight against Master Vaughn. After a ferocious fight, Barton defeats Master Vaughn and he becomes severely injured. Ip Man takes the injured people from the association to Bruce Lee's gym to be treated. The people then apologize to Bruce Lee for their past judgments against him. Hartman calls Bruce Lee and tells him about the condition of Master Vaughn. Ip Man and Yona rush to the hospital. Ip Man calls Ip Jin, but Bob receives the call. Ip Man tells him about his cancer, on which Bob forces Ip Jin to talk to his father. Ip Man apologizes to Ip Jin for slapping him and promises him that he will teach him Kung Fu when he will come home. Ip Jin cries and asks his father to return home. Ip Man replies that he will return as soon as he finishes his work in the US. Ip Man asks Hartman to take him to Barton, but Yona doesn't want. Ip Man tells her that the goal of martial arts is to fight against injustice. Hartman takes Ip Man to the Marines' headquarters to fight Barton, who seems excited to get revenge on Colin's defeat. Barton beats Ip Man and he falls down, but he doesn't give up and gets up to fight again. After a long and aggressive fight, Ip Man defeats Barton and all the cadets applaud him. At the association, Master Vaughn gives a recommendation letter to Ip Man for his son, which Ip Man accepts. He then leaves the US and comes home where Ip Jin asks him to teach him Kung Fu. Ip Man agrees but tells him that he will show him only once and asks Ip Jin to record it. In the end, we see Bruce Lee coming at the funeral of his master to pay his respect.